Hello, beautiful families, beautiful people. I hope you are enjoying Pride Week and finding good ways to celebrate. So here we are doing stories for Pride Week, stories with a Pride theme. And today's story is called Stonewall. Now, I don't know if that's a familiar word to you. Probably is. And this is written by Saunders and illustrated by Jamey, Christoph. A building, an uprising, a revolution. Stonewall. A book about a building. Woo! It's blowing away. Here we go. Two stable houses, side by side. For more than 100 years, we witnessed history. Then came a night when we became part of history. We were built in the 1840s to board the horses of the affluent in New York City's Greenwich Village. Inside our brick walls, horses whinnied and hammers clanged. Outside, passerbys bustled as carriages rumbled on the cobblestone streets. As time passed, the wealthy residents began to move uptown, taking with them their art clubs, libraries, fine hotels, and theaters. Our neighborhood became a mecca for immigrants arriving from all around the world. Visitors made their way to Greenwich Village. Many of them stayed. Greenwich Village was changing. We changed too. The smell of freshly baked bread began to waft out our windows and into the neighborhood. The roar of automobiles replaced the rumble of carriages as artists and writers moved in. Contemporary art galleries, experimental theaters, and small restaurants grew up all around us. The village became the creative center of New York City. In 1930, our two buildings were joined together, and we became Bonnie's Stonewall Restaurant. Celebrities, artisans, tourists, and local residents lunched at our tables, shoulder to shoulder. Greenwich Village was a place where you could be yourself, and where being different was welcomed and celebrated. Newness thumped in the heart of Greenwich Village. In the 1950s, vibrating our windows, musicians played on the streets, jazz filled the air. Poets performed in restaurants, artists painted in their studios. The beat movement arrived, and we witnessed it all. Leading up to the 1960s, our neighborhood welcomed gays and lesbians, men who loved men, and women who loved women. We were a home for people who were told that they didn't fit in or belong. There's the sign. We had welcomed all kinds of people before, so we knew what to do. In 1967, we sprung open our doors and became the Stonewall Inn. Gay men and women from throughout the city and the country came to meet old and new friends, free to be themselves inside our walls. Women and men, young and old, teenagers, transgender people, drag queens, veterans, business people, students, people of different colors, religions, and cultures gathered, chatted, laughed, and danced under our roof. Others were not so accepting. They thought those who gathered within our walls were too different. We heard the whispered voices of those inside. Loving someone like yourself was illegal. Socializing together could get you arrested. Wearing the wrong clothes could land you in jail. Being gay could get you fired or kicked out of your home. Some nights, we heard fists pounding on our doors, felt angry footsteps stomping across our floor, and saw flashes of glaring light as the police arrested some of those inside. After each raid, those who hadn't been arrested left quietly, angrily, disappearing into the darkness. We stood tall and kept opening our doors. People kept coming. But the police raids kept coming too. We couldn't stop them. In the steaming early morning hours of June 28th, 1969, under a nearly full moon, another raid began. "Police!" a voice shouted. "We're taking the place." Officers stormed through the doors, lining up the people inside, demanding IDs, detaining some of them and arresting others. This time, those not arrested didn't disappear into the night. Instead, they stood defiantly on the street and on the sidewalk under our rusty sign. This time, they weren't quiet. As the ones arrested were led to police cars and patrol wagons, the anger of the growing crowd was lit. "Why don't you do something?" yelled one woman as she was forced into a police car. Immediately, the spark of anger grew into smoldering resistance. Shouts and screams echoed off bricks. Fists thrust in the air. We saw the faces of the crowd and felt their rage. The Stonewall Uprising had begun. The police, shocked by the defiance of the crowd, rushed back in and barricaded themselves inside. Our friends stood outside, trying to force open our doors. Our windows were shattered. Smoke drifted through our rooms. We stood firm. Years of silent anger inflamed the crowd. The police called for help, and it soon arrived. The fires were extinguished. The police came back outside. But the crowd's anger was not extinguished. "Gay power!" the protesters shouted. "We want freedom!" The police had never seen anything like it before. Neither had we. And it wasn't over. The Stonewall Uprising continued, on and off for several days and nights. A new day was dawning for the gay rights movement. The change that began here, inside our walls at the Stonewall Inn, now known as the LGBTQ+ rights movement. On June 28, 1970, our windows looked out on men and women gathering to celebrate the first anniversary of the Stonewall riots, the Stonewall Uprising. At first, hundreds marched. Then thousands of men and women, young and old, teenagers, transgender people, drag queens, veterans, business people, students, People of different colors, different religions and cultures, and their friends and families joined the parade through the streets of New York City. Say it clear, say it loud, gay is good, gay is proud, they chanted. Many things are different now. Some things have changed. Some laws have changed. Now, two men who love each other or two women who love each other can marry. We know. We've seen their happy faces snapping photos outside our door. We've heard their footsteps walking side by side on our floors. We've felt their love. Each year in June, people all over the world celebrate the movement for LGBTQ+ rights, a movement that has come so far, a movement that still has further to go. They celebrate inside and outside our walls. They celebrate freedom. They celebrate equality. It all began one night here at the Stonewall Inn when two old horse stables became part of history. Stonewall Inn. Look, there's an actual picture. A story about a building that was part of history. Well, I hope you're having a wonderful Pride Week. I hope you're celebrating a lot. And I wonder if this building could talk. I wonder what this building would say about times when people weren't treated equally and times when people are, and a future where we'll celebrate even more. Well, have a wonderful week, celebrate Pride, and we'll read more stories.